Journalists are never happy. 1,000 franchises could be perfect, but 1,000,000 would be unacceptable in their eyes, and they're constantly complaining about people not being represented enough in video games, movies, TV shows, entertainment in general. But now a Warhammer 40K hit piece has released where a Journo complains that it doesn't represent women and minorities enough, and Games Workshop must change. I have a few different things to show off, but before we get into the topic, if you enjoy the content that I create, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. Follow me on social media like Twitter or mine so that you can see when my content is posted. And of course, if you do really enjoy the videos and the live streams that I create, please consider becoming a Dark Titan via Patreon or a supporter via YouTube memberships. So this is a Tech Radar article. It says this Warhammer 40K RPG addresses one of the franchise's biggest problems, and right underneath it says Boys Club. Of course, nothing is good enough for these people. No matter what you do, they're always gonna find something to complain about. It says Warhammer 40K sure has a lot of loud, shouty men, from the augmented super soldiers of the Space Marines to the stoic Imperial Navy captains of Battlefleet Gothic Armada 2. It's no surprise that the setting can be rather off-putting to some. It's off-putting to sensitive snowflakes like this because, of course, they don't like anything that is a little bit offensive. They don't like anything that is a little bit harsh. They don't like anything that is not all flowers and sunshine and rainbows and representation. This is a great shame, since at its best, Warhammer 40K stands as some of the most compelling satire that the United Kingdom has ever produced. It lampoons everything from fascism, colonialism, imperialism, and classism, all in one convenient grimdark package courtesy of the developers and writers at Games Workshop. Like any great dystopia, the theocratic authoritarian regime of the Imperium of Man is darkly compelling, but the franchise loses something by failing to represent women and minorities in its games. Now, this infuriates me to absolutely no end, because this person clearly does not know Warhammer. They clearly do not understand the lore and the backstory, because these people are represented plenty, which I'll get into in a minute, but it says the Imperium spans billions of worlds, and yet the stories told about it seem to focus on a very specific subset of humanity. They go on to say that, unfortunately, this recent surge of games has done very little to rectify the franchise's representation problem. They even say in another section that representation matters, and of course, something like representation matters, right? I want everyone to feel like they can find a story that they can relate to. Now, of course, this goes into the bigger conversation of you shouldn't feel like you can only empathize with somebody or relate to somebody just because they have your gender or your skin color. You're supposed to look at overarching themes and qualities of these people. But yeah, I mean, representation is a good thing, even in this context when we're talking about like skin color and sexuality. But the issue with their argument is that they are saying that, you know, this series, this game, all of the games, do not represent women, do not represent minorities, which is the furthest thing from the truth. Now, I obviously can't sit here and go through the entirety of Warhammer 40K's backstory, but I can go through a few prominent examples. Here we have what is known as the Sisterhood, whose military arm is also known as the Sisters of Battle and formerly as the Daughters of the Emperor, and they are an all-female division of the Imperium of Man. There's a giant example of an all-female division in Warhammer. Here we have the Howling Banshees. They are an all-female group of warriors who specialize in highly mobile melee combat and represent a war god's ability to instill fear in his foes, and 95% of the Howling Banshees are, as you could guess, women. We also have a whole entire novel series. Now, yes, this novel series has been slow to release, just as slow as George R. R. Martin's been writing Winds of Winter. I'm sorry, that one really hurts me. But it focuses on a female character. The first book came out in 2012. The second came out in 2021, and Dan Arnett is working, as far as we know, on the latest novel, but it's going to be a trilogy. And of course, it focuses on a female former protege and operative of a very important character, Eisenhorn. They also do mention minorities in here, how the game doesn't highlight minorities enough, but the problem with that is the setting itself, right? Because no one has time to worry about another person's race. No one really has time to be bigoted against other people's race because it's humanity versus everything else, right? They are in this massive war. That is like the least of their concern. So you'd think that that would actually be good in this journalist side, because there's not really the concept of racism in 40K, but they don't bring that up. They just briefly mention something like minority in this article. So after hearing just a few examples, if you don't know Warhammer 40K, we can already break down their argument. It says that, there are other games and other franchises that have done so much better. It's like they went into this with a hate boner against Warhammer and Games Workshop, like they wanted to find something to attack them over. They say the recent surge of Warhammer 40K games has done very little to rectify the franchise's representation problem. With the exception of satisfying co-op shooter Darktide, Warhammer 40K games seem to struggle when it comes to the representation of women. Take XCOM like Warhammer 40K, Chaos Gate Demon Hunters. Though 2 of your 3 advisors are women, every single soldier is male on account of Games Workshop. Of course, though, they are even bringing up examples of content that includes women, very important women, but it's not enough for them. This is the problem. Journalists are never happy, even when they have to present you with information that breaks their argument like this. Though 2 of the 3 advisors are women, it's just not enough for them. This is why companies like Games Workshop should not be listening to sensitive snowflakes like this. It's why they should just make the content that they are confident in, that they are proud of. They also compare 40K to Halo Infinite, where these Spartan super soldiers are refreshingly diverse, not to mention customizable, and you'll begin to see the problem with the representation of women slowly but surely becoming better in video games. 40K looks more and more backwards by comparison, and this is actually kind of funny, because Halo Infinite, while yes, Cortana was a primary character, she wasn't an active character, right? She wasn't there helping Master Chief anymore. She was just like a memory. I think that's the best way to kind of describe it. So she was there, but she wasn't active in the story. So you'd think that that would actually be a problem for them, because she has been an active part of all of the other problems, but they don't mention that. And to me, it just shows that they kind of don't know Halo. They didn't even really pay attention to Halo Infinite. They basically just Googled games like 40K, and then they found Halo, and then they went, oh, those are super soldiers, it's close enough, which I think is absolutely freaking hilarious. But yes, as you can see, it's very easy to tear down this journalist's argument. Warhammer does not have a problem with representation. They do not disrespect women. There are plenty of very important women and minority characters in 40K, but of course they're not going to mention that. They're not going to bring that up, because it does ultimately break down their argument and just makes them look ridiculous. But that's all that I really had to discuss in this video. Let everyone know your thoughts in the comment section down below. If you enjoyed this and of course found it important and informative, please make sure to give it a like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. And of course, if you didn't, make sure to give it a dislike. I appreciate your support either way, but I will talk to you all again in the next video really soon.